Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag and drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show.
It's not Bollywood, Pete. It's not Bollywood. It is Tollywood. And I am so doing it.
Why did that happen? Why? Why did that happen? Have you seen the trailer?
I have seen the trailer.
No, I mean, really, have you watched it?
I have watched it.
I'm not sure that you have. You should watch it again, because I'm not sure that you've seen it. I think maybe you just kind of is some sort of trailer roulette.
Eega.
Eega. It's the next reel, everybody. And I'm Pete, and that's Andy.
Sorry, I'm playing a trailer.
Oh, you are? Have you seen the one that I'm doing?
I have. Yours is much darker and more serious.
I know. It's very dark and very serious. It comes out late, December. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. You should go to thenextreel.com, everybody, and you should also subscribe to this podcast if you're listening to this on Facebook or on the website. Make sure you subscribe in iTunes or Downcast or whatever your podcatcher of choice may be. And you can find us on facebook.com/thenextreel. And you can also find us at flickchart.com/thenextreel, where you can catch up with our list of favorite films. Did I miss anything?
Can they still catch us over at Letterboxd? I know we're not really
I'm not doing
promoting it or using it. But
I haven't finished. I just haven't finished the thing. I got through like 20 movies. I put all of our the diary of all the movies that we've done was the idea. That I would put our diary of all of our movies over there. I don't know what we're going to use it for, but we're trying to figure out
some way.
God, this is hard. And so it just keeps coming back to the website. I mean, I don't know. There's all these great tools, but really we have a website.
Right.
And I don't know that we're using it to its full effect. Spend so much time on that. Who's running that Facebook page over there? Is all it's punerific this week.
It was pretty punny.
Have you seen anything good this week?
I have been using Letterboxd, so it's a great way to keep up with what I.
So what you're telling me is
watching.
that I'm not paying enough attention to you.
So you can see everything that I've been watching.
What are you? What are you?
Well, I'm still plowing through my Tom Cruise. I think my wife has given up on it, and I think it's turned into just my Tom Cruise thing, which may sound a little weird, but I'm doing it. I just finished The Color of Money this week, which, of course, I had to watch The Hustler in order to watch The Color of Money. So
look at you. You got like 134 films over here.
I tell you, I know. And then I watched my first Bruce Lee movie this week, too. So
Well, Tom Cruise was not in that.
He was not in that.
This was The Big Boss, 1971.
Yeah, a.k.a. Fists of Fury.
Yeah,
it's been a fun week of movies. And then I watched The Gray, which is just I really can't get enough of how great that film is.
I haven't seen it. How's that?
You need to.
All right.
I think we need to do an Alaska series just so we can talk about that and The Edge and Into the Wild.
All right.
Yeah,
that's good. I'm good with that. Are you a Letterboxd Pro member? Do you know about that?
I'm not.
What does that get you? What does that get you? Does somebody come give you a massage while you're using it, or
they do actually?
That's
the. How did you know?
That was very clean.
It filters. It integrates with your Netflix. It can import from your IMDb if you have your own list there already. You can do your own personalized year in review.
Oh, that's cool. It's only $19 a year.
Yeah.
Or you could be a patron where you're just throwing money at them.
That's right.
Or $50 a year.
Right, because all you get extra
is love.
Their undying gratitude.
All right. So what else do we need to talk about before we do? Do we have announcements? We have an announcement for this weekend, right?
This weekend, we're doing our film board. We're doing it on Sunday instead of Saturday, but we are going to be talking about the Wolverine. Not just Wolverine. No. We're talking about the Wolverine.
That's right.
Not a Wolverine. It is the Wolverine.
Well, there can be only one.
There apparently is only one. Well, he lives forever, so.
And let's see. What else did we have? You know what? We did, we're in the middle of our Couples on the Run series, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this, we did last week, we did True Romance. Do you remember that?
I do remember that. Oh, I know, yeah.
Oh,
right.
That was a great movie. Well, I just wanted to give a shout out. I feel like we didn't appropriately give a shout out because I think the seed was planted.
I think so.
By the fantastic Joel Micah Harris on Facebook that we should do True Romance, and that's what actually got us thinking about where can we jam that series, and that's what got us started on this Couples on the Run thing. So Joel, you're right to knock us on the head and remind us that it was your idea. It was your idea. So thank you so much for sharing that and get this, because I'd forgotten just how great that movie was. So I'm really stoked that movie came around.
And then I did enjoy the little poke at you for not commenting on True Romance's use of the F word when you talked about it at length in Midnight Run, where True Romance actually uses it more frequently.
Is that
I think it's a De Niro thing.
It may be a De Niro thing. It may. It may be because the movie was already failing me on some count that I had to, it's just not. It wasn't. Maybe it's in the delivery. It's all in the delivery. It's all in the delivery. That's the thing. Did you? Oh man, did you see the clip of George Zimmerman's attorney telling a knock-knock joke in court?
I did not.
Talk about a joke gone flat. This is De Niro. This is a full. The attorney pulls a full-on De Niro in court. He says,
not even a Costner.
No. He says, well, I'd like to first of all disclaim my client. I'm going to tell a joke, and if you don't like it or you find it inappropriate, it's not my client's fault. Please blame me. He's telling this to the court, and then he says, all right, and so here's the joke. Knock knock. Who's there? George Zimmerman. George Zimmerman who? Okay, you're on the jury. Right? And there's nothing. There's the vacuum of space. Cold, dark space in the courtroom. And then he says, neck outstretched, nothing? I thought that was great. I'm sure it was the delivery, because really, that was funny.
Oh, man.
He says this in court. Can you believe it?
Oh, man.
Full De Niro on that.
Wow.
Speaking of, I gotta let me tell you in another. That was a little sidetrack there, but let me tell you in another message to me. The great Sarmento. I don't know why he felt he needed to turn the shiv.
Mm-hmm.
He reminded me that De Niro was also in Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Oh, wow. He was turning the shiv, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wow. So
that's out there now.
Thanks a lot, Steve. You're helping my case.
All right, so I'm gonna do my trailer first.
Yes,
listen to this.
yours.
Listen to this cast. First of all, we'll see. I've already lost my page. Hang on. Don't leave. Christian Bale, Zoe Saldana, Woody Harrelson, Casey Affleck, Forrest Whitaker, Willem Dafoe, Sam Shepard. Right?
All of whom have Academy Award winner or Academy Award nominee in front of their name, except poor Zoe.
Poor Zoe Saldana. Yeah. Well,
sometimes I think it's more of a slap in the face when they start putting those on.
I know,
and then
right?
There's that one person you're like, oh, and then there's
and also
you.
Zoe's in it. Zoe came to some readings,
and she's just so cute.
And the ever adorable Zoe Saldana. This is directed by Scott Cooper, who also did Crazy Heart, which I wasn't crazy about, but many people were, which makes me more excited to see this movie, Out of the Furnace. Mm-hmm. This is a regular Thugs Parade. I'm very excited about this. It's like a steel mill fight club.
It does look that way, doesn't it?
Woody Harrelson plays the big bad in this movie, big crazy, and ironically, Christian Bale is also crazy. Actually, there's nothing ironic about that, but it looks. I think it looks great. I'm very excited to see it. Looks like a good one to check out. But the movie doesn't come out, unfortunately, until December 6th, 2013. So hang tight on that. But check out the trailer because it looks like a really good one.
It does. It looks interesting. It looks like it's going to be one of those films that people will be talking about at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And maybe Zoe might get
this
an
could be her
Oscar nomination
shot.
out of it. This could be it. You never know. But no, I mean, I do love Zoe. And all kidding aside, I think it does look like an interesting film. And I love Woody Harrelson. I love how much he changes in films from being such an affable goofball or just a great guy or whatever, and then just turning it into just like this horrible, evil guy that he is here.
That is the truth.
Yeah, he's always fun to watch.
That is the truth. He's man, weird watching that guy coming from, you go, I'll tell you what, you go watch some old Cheers clips and then watch this trailer.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true. That's it. Yep.
Crazy. Okay, so now.
And then there was Andy.
No, I don't mean to make fun. It's just this may be the most out there trailer. Well, certainly the most out there trailer that you've done, that you have delivered unto us.
It possibly is. It likely is.
Yes.
The film is called Iga. It is not a Bollywood film. It is a Tollywood film. I didn't know there was such a thing, but it is a Tollywood film.
What?
And it. Let me.
Well, I don't know why. No, wait. What? Define.
Okay,
that.
Tollywood. It's a different area of India, known in an area. Telugu is the area, I guess, or it's the language that they speak in this area.
What would the equivalent be? Like movies made in like New Jersey?
It's I don't know, L.A., New York. They actually, you joke about that.
I shouldn't. I'm gonna get in so much trouble.
That's right. They, I gotta find the statistics because it's insane. In the years, 2005, 6, and 8, the Telugu film industry has produced the largest number of films in India, exceeding the number of films produced in Bollywood. The industry holds the Guinness World Record for the largest film production facility in the world. The Prasad IMAX, located in Hyderabad, is the world's largest 3D IMAX screen and the most attended cinema screen in the world. So you mock them as much as you want, but they have it on you as far as the amount of film that they see and make there.
Oh, they do.
The Guinness, all of these Guinness records, like this movie producer, D. Rama Naidu, holds the Guinness World Record as the most prolific producer with 130 films. A Telugu actor, Brahmanandam, holds the Guinness World Record for acting in the most number of films. Over 1,000 films this guy has been in. And the list goes on and on. It's really fascinating. And this is really why I wanted to do this trailer, because I had no idea that Tollywood existed. I had no idea about Telugu cinema and all that. I just happened to catch this trailer because somebody posted it. And it's absurd in the most just crazy way that it makes me want to watch it. Basically, this guy who's a high-profile industrialist gets whatever he wants. He's got the hots for this woman. You've got these great kind of Bollywood romantic musical-looking scenes. And then,
lots of pyrotechnics.
Yeah,
which
lots
is cool.
of fireworks going off and everything. And then there's this other guy who loves this girl, and I can't tell which one kills the other, but one of them kills the other. Well, that guy is
the dead guy.
He is born again as Iga, which I guess means fly in Telugu. And he goes about taking vengeance on this.
By being annoying.
By being just a pest.
And it's really horrific.
The word. Yeah, it really is. This fly holds a needle and jabs it into somebody's eye, and
he bugs he's getting a shave. He bugs the barber who's getting who's shaving him, and he slices his neck with the straight razor. It's horrible.
It is, but in the best, most comical, musical way.
It looks like the first half of the trailer just looks kind of goofy, like a goofy kind of if you like the sort of feel good kind of Bollywood thing, you're gonna love this, right? You just generally love it, and then it goes nightmare. Wow.
Yes,
when you see him hatch out of the larvae into a fly, it's
I know,
just bad. So we're gonna make sure that goes everywhere. I can't wait for you to see it and report back.
I can't wait. You know, I've got to say, as absurd as the film looks, I think I would have more fun watching this and laughing at its absurdity and enjoying it than I would going to see The Lone Ranger.
Oh, yeah. I think that kind of goes without saying. I mean, some of the reviews of The Lone Ranger are really entertaining. Vastly more entertaining, I gather, than the movie.
Yeah.
You haven't seen it, right?
I haven't seen it. It's one of those that I'm not really inclined to go watch.
Yeah.
It's one of those that if I were staying at a hotel and I was awake at 1 a.m. and it was on, I probably would lay there and watch it and curse at myself saying, why don't you just go to sleep, you idiot, and not be able to and end up watching the whole thing.
That'd be sad, yeah. Oh, goodness. Okay, well, I'll tell you, I have not seen much, but I've read 4 more Jack Reacher books since we last talked.
Wow, busy.
I've become obsessed. Well, I've been on a project. I've been just crazed, wrapped up in Final Cut for a long time, and so I haven't been out of my little studio. But at night, oh man, I've been powering through the Reacher. I'm telling you now, after I've seen that Reacher movie and read all these Reacher books, I want more Reacher. I want more Reacher. That's it.
Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah, I want you to make that happen.
Yeah. I don't know how I will make it happen, but
we're. Well, that'll give you something new to think about. We are doing. Do we have anything else? Any other old business? I'm excited about talking about this movie tonight. So.
Yeah. Well, let's start. Say 1, 2, 3, go.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. We are continuing our Couples on the Run series with the hit film Butch and Sundance: The Early Days with Tom Berenger and William Catt. I kid.
Oh, wow.
I kid. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. George Roy Hill. 1969.
Good year for Westerns.
Sure was. I think it's safe to say we like this movie.
I think it's definitely safe to say that, yes.
This was it was kind of a popular flick.
Yeah, it was.
People think highly of it.
They do.
It was Robert Redford and Paul Newman and Katharine Ross playing well, not Katharine Ross, but the titular characters, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, loosely based on the true story of these guys.
Yeah.
I hadn't really made much sense of the fact that this was as close to reality as they could get it.
As close to reality as they could discern the facts back in 68, 69 when William Goldman was writing it and everything.
Right. In general, these Paul Newman and Robert Redford are so really unforgettable in these characters that they've kind of become those characters. It's tough to see them as anything else. Even the Sting, you sort of I still see them as Butch and Sundance.
Well, obviously, the character was important enough in Robert Redford's career that he named a certain film festival of his after it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it obviously marked a very particular point in his career, and really the film was the one that was the jumping off point for him, essentially, from just kind of an actor in little films, nobody really knew who he was, to wow, he's a movie star, this guy Robert Redford.
Right. Right, because let's see, he was coming off of this. He was coming off of, what was it, like Barefoot in the Park?
Yeah, Barefoot in the Park, yeah. This Property is Condemned. He did a lot of TV through the 60s.
Yeah.
And then a few films that got some notice and stuff. But this film was the one that really was the one that got him into movie star status.
Yeah, yeah.
George Roy Hill had seen him and thought he'd be perfect in the film. Nobody else believed him. It was one of those casting calls that I think George Roy Hill just really felt strongly about and really was pushing. Initially, William Goldman, when he wrote the script, he pictured Paul Newman in the film, and oddly enough, Jack Lemmon paired with him, which I have a hard time picturing. I guess Jack Lemmon had been in a Western shortly before this, and so I guess maybe then it was easier to picture. But now that you see these two iconic, characters created by these two amazing movie stars, I cannot picture Jack Lemmon in this film.
No, in fact, I'm trying to figure out what was going on for him in the late 60s. He had done in 1969 he was in the April Fools. Right before that he was in The Odd Couple in 68, right? There is no
he had done something around there, I thought, where he was a sheriff, and I don't know what it was that William Goldman had seen. I'm looking at his list right now, and I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of Jack Lemmon's films in the 60s. In the
60s, no, neither have I. That's interesting. I would not see that pairing either.
Yeah, very strange. And then Steve McQueen was also up for the role, and Steve McQueen said, "I will be either of the characters. I want to be in this movie so badly. I think it would be great." And George Roy Hill said, "Okay, well then you be Sundance," and Steve McQueen backed out because he really
really wanted to be Butch.
Want to be Butch.
Yeah. Well, and you can't really see him as anything else, right?
No, yeah, exactly. And then the studio at the time, this was 20th Century Fox, and it was headed up by our favorite producer, Richard Zanuck. He was heading at the time, and he reluctantly agreed to let George Roy Hill have Robert Redford in the role.
Which was obviously a legendary decision.
It was a smart move on his part.
What was your sense watching this movie again? When was the last time you sat down and really watched it?
It probably 5 to 10 years ago.
Oh, it's been a long time.
Yeah. I hadn't seen it in a little while.
I think I saw it, a couple of years ago, maybe 2-3 years ago, but I hadn't really watched it. I'm curious what sort of stuck out for you watching it, maybe in the context now that we've been doing this show for 2 years almost, and kind of have a sense of some other films of the period and other films of the genre, and these guys. What is your sense for how this movie stands up? In particular, how it what is it? What is the novelty of this film? Why is it special?
This film, I think, stands out as a Western. There's a great balance in it between the comedy and the seriousness and the action. I really enjoy that balance in this film. I think that but it's not comedy played like for jokes. It's not kind of a goofball, slapsticky sort of comedy. I think Paul Newman and Robert Redford play the characters just very seriously through the whole film. It's just some of their lines happen to be just great, funny lines, and some of the situations end up being pretty funny. I think that is a strength that this film has that you didn't get in a lot of Westerns, unless, like I said, it was going for that slapstick, which is obviously a totally different type of film. I think the fact that the two heroes of the film in a cowboy movie don't stand and fight. They actually run away and they flee. Yeah. Not just the area, but the not just going past one continent. I mean, they go all the way down into South America. They really flee, and so that's definitely something that stands out. And then the music for me stands out in now. I don't know. This last time, the music stood out for me more in a way that didn't work as well for me as it has in the past, but that's its own little thing. That being said, I think the music did kind of, define something of the era as to like using more modern music, more putting a song in it, stuff like that. That helped maybe define some emotion in the film, as opposed to feeling like you had to fit within the context of the period or something like that. And you see filmmakers doing that a lot nowadays. Baz Luhrmann is all about completely anachronistic music within the context of his films, and I think it's something that really works for him. I think that the Burt Bacharach music in this, I think works sometimes. But that being said, I still think that it helps the film stand out as something different. So, I think those for me are the things that really stood out as the things that help this film stand out as something special.
Me too. There were things that I noticed that I hadn't really given thought to in prior reviews. Right. The first is the period, and obviously this is based on a true, roughly true-ish story, right? And roughly true character. So we had a date, right? But this was the first time I actually noticed the period, and how it was interesting. In the way it played with the film in contrast to other westerns, right? Because this wasn't just these two guys who were great bank robbers that existed in the West. These were two guys that were coming to terms with a change of industry in a period that was rapidly modernizing around them, and I had never grasped the weight of that sensibility before in this film. I had never really, I guess I'd never just let that kind of sink in. There is this sequence in the, right about in the halfway point as they're trying to figure out, what could we possibly do? We have no other skills, right? You have to be a kid to be a rancher. I don't know.
Yeah.
We haven't done ranching since our cattle rustling days.
Right.
It just to really bring in this sense of, this is a conversation that we had before, and we have had again and again and again every time we have this sort of generational change and technology change, and here it was manifested in this bicycle, and I thought the bicycle was very clever, and I love that the way that sort of pushes the momentum of this this issue of modernization forward. I really like that. The second thing that stood out for me was this relationship, this threesome that they have here. Between Butch, Sundance, and Etta, which I thought was quite a novelty, because you don't end up having a man-woman traditional stable relationship. You have the complexities of three people who really, or her having a relationship with Butch and Sundance as a single unit,
right?
And you get the feeling through Goldman's fantastic script that this is a complex kind of 60s relationship that just happens to be set in the early 1900s.
Right.
I love that, and I'd never really noticed that before. I'd never really thought through kind of what that means as a cultural statement in a Western movie, and how that's yet another mashup that I think is really interesting. And the music, I'm right with you, man. I was surprised because I usually, when I think of the music of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, I always think of Raindrops Keep Falling on Your Head, and that doesn't bug me. Even now, that song doesn't bug me, because again, they're on the bike. It's all about this sort of cultural collision, of the time of this machine replacing their horse, and fear and exploration and all these great things. But man, most of the rest of the music doesn't work. It just makes everything seem dated, and in particular that huge montage right in the middle, the
New York montage,
the New York to Bolivia montage, is massive, and I think
it's like 60s circus music.
Yes,
it's something
exactly
about it. That it just had a total feel for the time, and I really, I mean. It was rough to watch. Luckily, the film only has about 13 minutes of music in, so there's not a lot to distract you.
Yeah, right. I bet you have the CD, right? I'm sure you have.
I don't actually. There's so little of it. I'm not sure it's worth putting one out.
It was a 3-inch CD.
Yeah, right. One of those little tiny.
Yeah.
It's like a business card.
It's right. It is. That's what it is.
The opening music, I think, is the best piece of music in the song or in the film. The piece that there's this melancholy tone to the music at the opening when it's this. It's like we're watching a silent film about Butch Cassidy and his hole in the wall gang. And you just have this melancholy music playing about this as we're watching this film about this gang and knowing that the tragedy that's going to come. I think that opening is absolutely beautiful. I think it's incredibly strong. And then but I don't think any of the rest of the music in the film works. It's just that one piece.
Yeah. So you don't even really like the Raindrops?
No, I do like Raindrops. I think it's a phenomenal song. This was the first time that I've ever watched it where I felt the disconnect of the type of music with the period of the film. I've never had that before, and I mean, I love that sequence. I love the bicycle. I love everything about it. It's just for some reason, it took me out of the film because I was focusing on the song, and I couldn't quite connect the two this time, and I don't know. It was a strange moment for me.
Don't ever hit your mother with a shovel. It leaves a dull impression on her mind. I love that bit.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm with you. The other, I think.
One thing I wanted to touch on that you brought up that I forgot to mention that I think was another great moment for Westerns and the film that you brought up was this relationship, and I think there's a great strength to the character of Etta, Katharine Ross's character in this film that we didn't see in a lot of Westerns at the time. We always saw the woman staying at home or, kind of worrying about the men.
Right. She was either staying at home or she was something to be rescued.
Or she was somebody hooking people up.
Right.
That's kind of what it boiled down to. And I think there's an amazing growth that William Goldman took writing this script and writing the character of Etta Place this way that really brought so much more to the story. She was there fighting with them. She was giving them, key bits of information. She was involved in their lives. She wasn't just the woman worried at home. And I think that was an amazing strength that really stands out for me. And it really stood out more this time. Like you said, it's one of those things that's always been there. It's just this time I really noticed it.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I think the discovery, the reveal of Etta Place when, he's sitting in the dark in her bedroom. Robert Redford sitting in the dark in her bedroom and surprises her, and she's shocked, and he's holding his gun, and he's like directing her, like conducting her with his gun on how to strip. And there is this sense that they're what they're introducing as sort of sexual deviance, and this sort of role play as they as they then introduce that they actually have a relationship, and that's another one of those sort of the sense I get of the 60s 70s kind of contemporary play that we don't see in other Westerns, that just sort of ekes its way in here, and I think it makes it a more sort of richly textured film as a result.
Absolutely. But sorry, I interrupted you. You were going to bring up another point.
It was the nature of... I just wanted to go back to the nature of work a little bit in this film and how work is portrayed, because these guys, like you made the point that which I think is really astute, that these guys are legendary bank robbers and train robbers, and the real life gang led by Butch and Sundance had I think still the longest stretch of successful bank robberies in American history, right? I mean, they robbed a lot of banks and got away with a lot of a lot of dough, and yet the way they were portrayed here is as just sort of workaday guys, and they the way that I love the exchanges with Paul Newman and the what's his name, the accountant who's always in the train, works for E.H. Harriman. Woodcock. Woodcock. Those exchanges with Woodcock are so civil, and I think that's this is the beauty of how the robberies themselves are portrayed, they're always gentlemanly. You know, they rob trains as gentlemen would. And
right. No, Butch, you know that if it were my money, there's no one else I'd rather have steal it than you.
Yes, it is so brilliant. So you know, I love how they talk about that, and I think that just adds to the sense of loss that we get when these guys realize that their era is over. And what, you know, as it builds up to this really, you know, this wonderful climax in Bolivia, as they are sort of gunned down in mystery.
Yeah.
And gunned down in history. I mean, that was the end of, you know, I think it really does it provides a wonderful punctuation on the end of their time.
Well, especially the way that it ends with that massive army barrage of bullet fire.
Right.
It is definitely the difference between, you know, gunfights in the Old West and gunfights during the time of warfare. Basically,
right,
you know,
right.
It was definitely interesting and really portrayed very well.
Well, in the sense that these guys, you know, that their weaknesses end up really betraying their reputation. Mm-hmm. Right, that they're the things that they are you know, terrified to admit that Sundance can't swim. You know,
right.
He is an incredible gunslinger, but he can't swim, and that Paul Newman, who has this, or Butch, who has this reputation as a, you know, this incredible, you know, leader of this incredibly successful, you know, gang of thugs, has never shot a man, and it you know, in that context was. It was made so much more powerful, and that's what, you know, ends up making the great the slaughter scene where they you know, they take out the gang of
the
Bolivian
Mexican
gangsters,
right. And
so
what's
much more
interesting,
powerful.
Exactly, and what is so interesting about that is Butch has gone this whole time as a bank robber without ever killing anybody. And it's not until he decides he's going to go straight and he's going to play it clean that he ends up having to kill people. And you can see in the scene immediately after how much it really affected him.
Yeah.
It was, I thought, incredibly powerful moment in the film that I just hadn't really paid attention to that moment before, but it really stood out to me as, wow, this is such an unusual thing to see in a Western, that your protagonist of the film, albeit a bad guy, bank robber, is really kind of emotionally a little broken because he's now had to kill someone.
Yeah, you know, and I think that gets to the point that these guys, you know, he is the bad guy because based on our social construct, you know, robbing banks is bad. But in the context of this film, he's just a working man, right? He's just a guy who's out there to make a buck like everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, I started watching this with my daughter, who was like, "Dad, why is it about, you know, bank robbers?" And I said, "Well, you know, just because they're bank robbers doesn't mean that we don't want to tell a story about them. It's interesting to learn stories about different sorts of people." And I said, "Think of it this way. Remember Wreck-It Ralph, when the Russian guy says to Ralph, he's like, Ralph, just because you are a bad guy does not mean you are a bad guy. So see, you can like this guy.
Yes. It's like, what was it? What was the pet therapy movie with what's her name? You know, you can love your pets, just don't love your pets.
Right.
It's always what I think of when I.
Just don't love your pets.
That's okay. We'll cut that.
Yeah. Truth about cats.
Truth about cats and dogs. Right. So, okay. So let's go back to William Goldman. Can we?
Yes, let's.
So there's a guy, William Goldman, who I think, man, I don't know. You put him right up with I think with Paddy Chayefsky in terms of the just skill and talent and restraint.
He is a writer who really, I think, knows how to put a script together and just tell a story in just an amazingly entertaining and skillful way. I really enjoy the stuff that he does. I mean, Butch, Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, The Princess Bride, Misery, Marathon Man, All the President's Men. It's, there's just so much stuff that he's done.
Yeah, I feel like we haven't, I don't know that gosh, memory fades. When did we talk about Marathon Man and All the President's Men? I don't feel like we showered enough praise on William Goldman. I mean, mostly because I think of this movie as like the William Goldman movie.
Yeah. Maybe that's because this was the script that, anyone who was interested in screenplay writing bought William Goldman's book. And the script for Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid was the last part of the book. And I think it's like, for a lot of people who kind of first got interested in it, it was one of the first scripts that they probably read because it was in that book.
It was, and there was another, I think, the scripts that were studied of William Goldman, it's like Butch Cassidy, it's The Princess Bride, it's... I think those were really the two, All the President's Men, and to some extent, but really, those two, and partially because he was not only an exquisite screenwriter, but he is an exquisite teacher of screenwriting, and the way he writes about the craft of screenwriting is not to be overshadowed by his actual work in film.
Right.
But this movie, why, as someone like yourself who actually teaches screenwriting, why is this script so exemplary of the craft?
It boils down to the script. I mean, you read the script, it is, entertaining all the way through. It is an incredibly entertaining read. It is just amazing character writing. You see how he writes these characters and how he just creates this world that you so easily picture. I mean, literally, it just jumps off the page at you. And you get an amazing story that, looking at the script, it's not, or just as the film as a whole, it's not your typical Hollywood, nowadays, Hollywood script that has, this is where your protagonist starts, and they take this journey, and this is their character arc, and this is where they end. It's not a film like that. You have these two characters that are bank robbers, and they're trying to sort things out. And, I'm sure there's a little character arc in there as they're trying to kind of sort out what it is they want to do with their lives and all that sort of thing. But on the whole, this really is a biopic. It's one of those films that's like, okay, this is a chunk of their life. We're going to examine it and look at how they progress over this portion of their life. Those are tricky films to write because they don't necessarily follow that typical, Hollywood structure of the character arcs and all that sort of thing. That being said, I think he found a way to tell this story that really becomes just a fascinating study of characters in a time where they have this change going on in their world, and they are trying to figure out how to face it. And as people who aren't going to be changing with it, really, I think it's a solid script. It's a fascinating read, and I think it's just one for the ages.
I talk a lot about the scripts that I like the most. I think on this show are the scripts that show a great deal of restraint and patience, and this is one of those scripts. When you talk about great character writing, that is definitely the balance of Butch Cassidy, the screenplay. It is a lot of white space when it comes to dialogue, and much of that is to the credit of his great patience in letting these characters demonstrate through motion on screen, where they're going. And I think that, and the journey that they're taking is both the emotional journey that they're taking us on. And I think it's extremely powerful as a result. And at the same time, I'm sitting here watching this and my wife is kind of watching over my shoulder, and she just couldn't do it. She couldn't get into it. And I found myself really sort of amazed by that, because I have such an easy time to kind of get into this film. And I wonder sort of what the expectations are for, all of that silence and rock scrambling and hoof beats. And, there's just an amazing amount of sound that tells so much of the story, so much more than these guys actually, speaking themselves.
It's a challenging script in that sense, because really you have this, I don't know what it is, a 30-minute, 40-minute chase right in the middle, where, I mean, really it's just Butch and Sundance on the run from the super posse.
Who is that guy?
Yeah, and it punctuated with those great moments that, again, they play seriously, but it really plays for laughs, and it plays well. But and it builds to such a great climax. That whole chase builds to such a great final scene before they escape. And but it is a long slog through, and I shouldn't use the word slog, but I mean, really it is. In the middle of the film, all of a sudden we've got this 30-minute chase. I think a lot of screenwriters wouldn't know how to hold an audience's interest. I think a lot of filmmakers wouldn't know how to direct it, or a lot of actors wouldn't know how to play it. I think all the right pieces were in place for this to work, and for this to be this amazing chase that just really goes on and keeps your interest the whole time.
Well, I think that's the secret, and that also is what is a requirement of the viewer, that you are both watching and listening and paying attention to these scenes. It's not something that you can watch and really get if you're trying to do something else.
Well, and
you need all your senses for this film.
Absolutely. I was so engrossed in that chase scene that when they scramble up onto the rocks and they look over the top to see where the super posse is, and they hear the rocks tumble behind them, and Sundance spins around and shoots his gun so fast only to see that it's a Gila monster, I jumped out of my skin. I mean, I was so there with them at that moment. I mean, it shows how, when you're in the film with them and you're really in the moment, I mean, it really is just completely engrossing.
Truly. Before we get too far, I want to the books that Goldman had written that were, well, he wrote a bunch, but the first one was 1983, Adventures in the Screen Trade, A Personal View of Hollywood and Screenwriting. That was the first one that I had read, but immediately picked up Four Screenplays, which is the one I think you're referring to, which has Marathon Man, Butch Cassidy, The Princess Bride, and Misery, with an essay on each.
Well, no, I think it's also Adventures in the Screen Trade. My copy has Butch Cassidy at the end of it.
Does it really?
Yeah, my whole last part of the book, I'm flipping through it right now. Because
I've got, let's see, does it have the whole screenplay in it? I don't have mine handy. And I remember it's got Sundance, or it's got parts of it. It's got All the President's Men, but it doesn't have the whole thing.
Oh, it's the whole script.
Huh.
Yeah.
I may be remembering that wrong. Anyway, those are the two books.
Well, here it is. My front says expanded to include the full screenplay. So I've got the expanded version of it.
Great, of course. You have the Laserdisc version of it. Comes in 7 volumes.
That's right.
Each 18 pages long. Okay.
And then what was the other book that he wrote?
Which one? Well, he did. Let's see. They did 5 screenplays after that. All the President's Men, Magic, Harper, Maverick, and The Great Waldo Pepper. Which Lie Did I Tell? More Adventures in the Screen Trade.
That's the one I was thinking.
I never picked that one up.
I haven't read that one either, but that's one that I would like to pick up one of these days.
Yeah. So anyhow, great stuff. We can drop some links to those in Amazon. Okay, so let's talk then about let's move on.
George Roy Hill.
Yeah, let's do it. We've already expressed our love for George Roy Hill in our the Sting episode.
Yeah, he's a great director. I think he knows how to get his actors to do what they want, and or do what he wants, and in a way where it really is communicating the story that he is wanting to tell. I forgot when I watched this again how beautiful the film is. Not just the cinematography, which we definitely need to talk about Conrad Hall.
Right.
Not just the cinematography, but also just the way that George Roy Hill staged the shots and the way that he had the actors fill the screen and the way he had the movement within the frames and everything. I had forgotten how stunning it is from beginning to end. And I really give George Roy Hill major kudos for that. Even just like starting the film in that sepia tone black and white as we are introduced to Butch Cassidy and then introduced to the Sundance Kid. Just great way to introduce us to these two characters and the world that they're in.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I really agree with that, and I think the that again, the sense of patience that we have visually, that he was willing to let that sepia go as long as he did.
Yeah.
Through that entire introduction of the Sundance Kid, which I thought was brilliant introduction. It was just focused, that long shot of just Redford's face while he's playing poker, and you hear the voices of others around him milling about, and you hear you hear Butch come in, and you hear the talking about it doesn't, not until the man accusing him of cheating stands up do we have a quick cut to his gun hand, and then back to Sundance. It is enormously restrained filmmaking in that opening sequence. It's brilliant.
And very smart filmmaking for him to stay on Redford so long. This was something that they talked about how important, or George Roy Hill talked about how important it was for him to stay on Redford as long as he did at the beginning, because again, remember, Redford at the time wasn't as big of a star. And if normally in Westerns, at that time, that second character would be kind of more of a sidekick character. And your protagonist, once things got tough, the sidekick would, go off and get coffee or something, and your protagonist would go off and fight the bad guys. He really wanted the audience to pay attention to the Sundance Kid and know this guy is as important to the story as Butch Cassidy. And this film is going to be Paul's and Robert's, and they are both going to carry the weight of the film. I think that was a very smart move on his part, and, potentially risky if it didn't work out. But I think, everybody ended up finding, obviously, that it was the right call.
Well, it certainly was, and, it does something else for us. I mean, we already really knew who Paul Newman was, and people knew, him coming in. But as you say, and we've talked about this before, about the fact that some of these Westerns end up being movies about kind of swarthy, sweaty, dirty white guys with beards, right?
Yeah, right.
And funny mustaches. And that was one thing that I noticed, sticking on Redford as long as we do, you burn this guy's face into your head as long as he's on screen. And it's really hard to miss him in a crowd after you spend so long staring at him in this introductory scene. It was really clever.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But George Roy Hill, when he was making this film, he actually, I guess he had back issues. He had a bad back, and he hurt it while he was scaling a mountain to find a shot with Newman. And it sounded like it took them the rest of the day to get him down off the mountain. And then for the rest of the film, they told the production manager, don't report this to the studio. They didn't want him to get replaced. And so they built him this stretcher, basically, that they would carry him around while they were making the film. And they would just kind of prop him up so he could give his direction and everything. And then they would set him down while they went and shot the shot. And then they'd pick him up to do the stuff. It sounds just like a horrible way to have to go through making a film. But to his credit, he still pulled off just a stunning film.
That's fantastic. Which do you have the version of which version of this film do you have?
I don't know of any but the one.
Well, because wasn't this was one that was wasn't this one that was done again for like 75th anniversary of 20th Century Fox? Wasn't it like cleaned up again? Am I missing something?
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, I have it on Blu-ray. I haven't noticed anything different with it. If it is just cleaner, that may be the case, but I don't think it's anything that is ever included.
It never included additional footage. That I know, but I was just curious, because I couldn't get this one in time, so I ended up picking it up on iTunes, and it is they put the 75th anniversary logo stuff all over it, and I didn't know if it was any different, if they had made a big deal about re-releasing that. The HD version of it is quite gorgeous, but I didn't know if I was missing something.
I don't think so. I mean, it looks stunning on Blu-ray. I will say that.
One of these days, Andy.
I doubt it. I doubt you're going to cross that line.
We'll see.
We'll see.
You wanted to talk about the fantastic Conrad Hall.
A cinematographer, I think, who really knows how to create an image that just sells a film, sells a moment. He really captures just beautiful, beautiful images. We talked about him also in Marathon Man. Oddly enough, he did that one too. And I'm sure we've talked about him just in the context of how great he is. But he had, I think he had a bad rap around this time. Some of the films that he had done just before this, while amazing films like Cool Hand Luke, In Cold Blood, Rogues Gallery, Hell in the Pacific, he had kind of developed a reputation for being a very slow cinematographer, and somebody who just took way too long lighting scenes and all that. And again, the studio did not want him. They wanted George Roy Hill to find somebody else, but Hill had seen, I can't remember what it was, I don't know if it's Hell in the Pacific or something, one of those films, and knew that this was the guy that he wanted to bring on board for this, and he pushed and pushed. And I just through the will of George Roy Hill, he did manage to get Conrad Hall on for this job, and rightly so. I mean, Conrad Hall went on to just create just a stunning looking film. I don't know. I didn't hear anything about the shoot taking overly long because Conrad Hall was, taking so long lighting his shots. I didn't hear anything about that. But he did go on to win an Oscar for it, for Pete's sake. So obviously he was doing something right with it. It
is gorgeous. And I think you're exactly right on a guy who knows how to, really capture a frame. If you do just a search, just a Google search for, Butch, Cassidy, and Sundance Kid images on Google Images, I think that it really comes home, because so many of the, it's not like one of those movies where you see kind of the same screen grab all the time, when you look at people who go in and grab screen grabs for whatever purpose, and the pressers and such. Every single image of these guys is different. Every single clip of these guys is capturing a different look, usually of them staring off into the distance together, but it's just a completely different and I think really gorgeous composition.
Yeah, it really is. He just knows how to make beautiful images.
Yeah, he really does. I'm actually looking for one because I wanted to ask you about it. So the slaughter scene we talked about, right? The gang slaughter, right? I don't have it in front of me. I'm scrubbing. Which is an industry term for the scrub. Where
it all of a sudden goes slow-mo as we hear kind of the echo of these guys' screams as Butch and Sundance gun them down in Bolivia.
Yeah, I'm wrong. I had it in my head. There's this wonderful long cut right after that where both of these guys are staring at the carnage, right? You know what I'm talking about? They're both looking down, and Robert Redford is right close to us, and Paul Newman's behind him about 10 feet, probably about 5 feet. And it's a one of those kind of iconic things where it's not just them looking at being chased; it's them looking at what they are actually capable of when when they've gone good. This is what they're required to do, and as you pointed out earlier. And I was wondering if the image in my head was a clear use of a split diopter, and I just found it. I clearly is not.
Okay.
But I wanted to ask you about that because I didn't know if you noticed it. But now I'm wrong, so this whole thing is for nothing.
So it was for naught. But no, the film. Let's see. George Roy Hill was nominated for Best Director. It was nominated for Best Picture. Bill Edmondson, David Dockendorf were nominated for Best Sound. William Goldman won an Oscar for Best Screenplay based on material not previously published or produced. Burt Bacharach and Hal David won Best Song for Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, and Burt Bacharach won for Best Score. Again, that I think now feels more like just something from the time. And Conrad Hall won for Best Cinematography. The film did lose out at the Oscars for Best Picture to Midnight Cowboy. And I believe that is what, John Schlesinger won for Midnight Cowboy, again, beating out George Roy Hill. So,
well, and then in the British Academy of Film Awards, won Best Film, Best Direction, Best Screenplay, Best Cinematography, and Redford for Best Actor.
Which is interesting.
And Best Actress for Katharine Ross.
Because Redford is such a restrained character, and Butch is much more of kind of the outgoing, gregarious character. So it's interesting that that's the direction that they took with it.
Yeah.
Anyhow, those Brits.
So it did very well. How did it do in the box office? It was a lousy performance at the box office. I think this is why nobody really talks about this movie very much.
That's right. Yeah, it came out October 1969. Budget of $6.5 million. Domestically, it went on to make $102 million. So it for a 110-minute film, it made a profit per minute of $870,990, and that's 1969 dollars. One of these days, I'm going to have to adjust all of this for inflation.
Because
so
where does that
more accurate?
Where does that put it?
It puts it. It actually bumps Inside Man, which we talked about just a few weeks ago. Yeah. It's at number 21 on our list, between Alien 3 and Inside Man. Interesting company.
Alien 3.
Yes. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I'm sure you have a tome of notes ready to keep talking about, right? Your one more thing list has got to be vast.
I always do. Just a few quick notes. One thing I really liked that Hill really focused on is he really did everything he could when filming all the scenes with the super posse to keep them as inhuman as possible, and I really enjoyed that. I love how you never really see faces of this super posse. They're always from long shots, or they're silhouetted from the sunlight behind them or something. I really enjoy the super posse.
You only barely get to see the white hat at the very late in the sequence.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I think that is great. Just a nice little bit of trivia. It filmed in mostly Utah, in I think it was Zion, where they filmed a lot of the Western stuff. They went to Colorado to film the Durango Silverton narrow gauge for the train, and the towns and stuff were out in L.A., and then they shot all the Bolivia stuff down in Mexico, I can't remember where, but. And then the last thing that I think is really fascinating is that this is something that kind of blew my mind when I heard it, because I have such a disconnect between Westerns and modern times. Butch Cassidy's sister visited the set.
Butch Cassidy's real sister.
His real sister visited the set of the film. I have such a hard time putting like a Western context, people riding on horses and gunfights and all that, with filmmaking. Obviously, it kind of there was that little bit of crossover there. In fact, the opening of the film with that silent film of Butch Cassidy and the Hole in the Wall gang, that was based on a real silent film made about the Hole in the Wall gang that theoretically, William Goldman kind of said, wouldn't it have been interesting if while they're down in Bolivia, they ended up seeing this film made about themselves, which is why he wrote that into the script. But yeah, his sister was still alive and visited the set and just kind of came to see what they were shooting and everything. Now, the story that she tells, and there's this big story now that's been going around that these two guys didn't die in Bolivia. You know, unfortunately, there's no evidence, there's no proof of this, but it's kind of general belief that they did die down there. But she said, no, he came back and he retired in, I can't remember where, Idaho or something, where he lived until he died. And likewise, I got a call at work a couple years ago from a guy who said, I've got a really interesting story to tell you. I'm looking for someone to give me some funds so I can make a film about this, a documentary, but I am the great-grandson of the Sundance Kid. And he was working on a book. He had sent me all sorts of notes that he had been taking. They had they had exhumed a body in Utah that they believed to be the Sundance Kid.
William Henry Long.
Yeah, they had a funeral procession for him. They buried him in a cemetery. All this sort of stuff. And I talked to this guy, and we're not in the place to basically fund other people's projects, so we didn't do anything with it. But I chatted with this guy because I was so fascinated about the fact that he said, I'm the great-grandson of the Sundance Kid.
That's crazy.
Watching this movie and then hearing stories like this, it really just kind of really puts a shift on things when you think there's this reality. And, like William Goldman says, most of this story is true. I mean, obviously nobody really knows, so it's all fictionalized to a big degree. But hearing these stories, it's like, gosh, I wonder if they died in Bolivia or if they came back here, and who knows, maybe they were alive to even see the film.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Very interesting little bits of trivia.
Well, and don't forget the Simpsons Halloween special, Treehouse of Horror 13, in which the Sundance Kid, along with Billy the Kid, Frank James, Jesse James, and Kaiser Wilhelm are in the Hole in the Ground gang. Classic episode.
Oh, that is just awesome.
Let's rank it.
Let's
if you head over to flickchart.com, you can slash the next reel, you can see our race to 100.
Yeah,
this should be episode, what is this, 92 that we have. We're over 100 right in now, aren't we?
No, we're not. We're getting there. This is going to be 98.
This is going to be 98.
No, sorry. This we're at 98. This will be 99. That's when you add in all of the
all the film boards.
Right, the film boards.
So right. Wolverine will be 100 if you look at in toto.
In Flickchart world. Right?
In Flickchart, yeah, we're going to hit 100 on Wolverine. Well, that's good. That'll be a nice little celebration. So flickchart.com/thenextreel to find the golden list, top 100 films.
Yes, indeed.
Let's do it.
Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, or Moon?
Butch Cassidy.
Yeah. Do you know that the original title of this was The Sundance Kid
and Butch Cassidy?
Yeah.
How dumb is that?
I can't even say that.
I know.
It sounds so wrong. All right. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, or The Social Network?
That one burns a little bit.
It does. It does.
Because if it's really, it doesn't go well from here.
It doesn't. It's going to be hard. It's going to be a fight all the way.
I know. Because I'm already tempted to say The Social Network.
There's
tempted.
Definitely a more interesting psychology going on in The Social Network. I feel like I have to go with Butch Cassidy, though.
Why? Just because of legacy?
And
allegiance?
Not even that. I just, watching it this time, I felt there was so much more going on in this film that I had just not really paid attention to or noticed before. And I really found myself drawn to this story of these two guys struggling in it's changed.
Yeah, me too. I go with you.
Okay.
Whatever you say.
Whatever you'll say. You are right. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, or The Thing?
Butch Cassidy.
That's a tough one, though.
It's not that tough.
It is for me.
It's not that tough. What is going on?
It's the stomach. It's the arms. Oh. Okay, Butch Cassidy.
What would Dick Dysart say?
That's right. He would totally say The Thing.
He would say Butch Cassidy.
Except for his scenes, of course.
Right.
Butch Cassidy or Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind?
Butch Cassidy.
I'm going to have to agree.
I can tell this one tears you up. I know this tears you up.
These are just all great films. That's why this is so hard. Butch Cassidy or Alien?
Alien.
I was going to say Alien. That's the point. Okay. That is it.
Go
okay,
ahead, fight me on it.
I know. Yeah. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid or Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Oh.
I'm going to have to go Raiders on this one. It is just indelibly imprinted on my
Yeah. I will too.
Yeah. Butch Cassidy or The Hurt Locker?
I think you're going to say The Hurt Locker.
I'm going to say Butch Cassidy, actually.
Really?
I am.
Oh, good. No fight.
And no fight on that one. Oh, there we are. Number 5. Number 5 is alive.
Hey, there we go. Okay, so what's the rundown? 4, 3, 2, 1 right now.
Butch Cassidy number 5, Raiders of the Lost Ark number 4, Alien number 3, Jaws number 2, and number 1, Holding Strong, Network.
Oh, I feel so good about that.
That's
a great list.
It really is a great top 5.
Yeah. No,
you really can't go wrong.
Very strong about that. And we haven't talked about you. Whoever referred you to this idea for another series or a list that we need to start of films that are required viewing for your children.
Oh yeah, my buddy Nels.
That's such a great idea for a series. Although I feel like we're going to need to cap it.
It'll be
somewhere.
A hard one. Well, it's one of those lists that I feel like we can come up with a series, but there's going to be constant films that we talk about that could fit on that list.
Yeah. Totally.
I think this could fit on the list, although I will say I did start watching this with my 6, almost 7-year-old daughter, and I realized, as one, she was just like, why are we watching a film about bank robbers? And 2, I got to the point where Sundance was in Etta's house, and he was making her strip and all that, and I'm like, this is just, I'm going to just...
Maybe a little much.
Yeah. Maybe when she's 10, we'll try again.
Well, and that's where I am. My daughter is away at Hunger Games camp this week. So
that sounds like the worst camp a parent could send their children to.
I hope to see her again on Friday.
You hope she is the one.
May the odds be in her favor. And so she's off learning to track and hunt and survive in the woods.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a good camp, but I would have watched it with her. I think she's 11, and I feel like it would be, I think I could sit down and watch it. Now, would she be interested past the first 5 minutes of the chase? I don't know, because that's a long chase if you're not accustomed to films like this. But she'd be good for it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
seems like a good age.
Where we go from here? Do you even know? Do you care?
Yes, I do. Next week, we're talking about a totally different kind of take on The Couple on the Run. We're going to be talking about Charles Laughton's one opportunity to direct a film, The Night of the Hunter.
You know what I realized after we put this series together? I actually haven't seen this film.
I was wondering if you had, and I'm very excited to talk to you about it, but I'm also a little nervous because it's a film that is different. And I think some people really appreciate the differences about the film.
The differentosity?
The differentosity.
Uh-huh.
I love it. And it's a film, again, that I would love to watch with my daughter, but again, probably not until she's about 10 or 11. So watch it with your daughter. See what she thinks.
This is Robert Mitchum, right? 1955?
Robert Mitchum, yep. Shelley Winters, and the amazing Lillian Gish.
Well, it's certainly right in there with what we, with our kind of what we love over here is this kind of film noirish, right?
It kind of is film noirish, but it's also not. It's just also not. But the couple on the run in this film is a couple of children, so it'll be.
Oh, excellent! Well, that's it's good. Yeah, that's dark.
Yeah, it's kind of a fairy tale in a way. It's an interesting film, and I love it.
Well, I can't wait to see it. I'm very excited about it now.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to talking to you with your virgin eyes and see what you have to say.
Excellent. All right. Good talk. Now, I got to go check the stack rankings for Hunger Games camp. Make sure she makes it to another day.
You know she's good if they've given her the nickname the Girl on Fire.
That's right.
Oh man.
It is hard to believe that we have been having in-depth weekly conversations about movies since 2011.
So many great conversations over the years about so many great movies.
And some stinkers.
Well, true. But you know, producing this show week after week requires a ton of work behind the scenes. If you'd like to help support our efforts, one easy way is by using our Originals page when shopping for books and movies that we've covered.
Just visit thenextreel.com/originals. Your purchases made through our links give us a small commission at no extra cost to you and allow us to keep having these great discussions.
In Season 3, we covered even more great adaptations like The Night of the Hunter and It Happened One Night, both part of our Couples on the Run series.
We talked about No Country for Old Men. The Coen brothers so rarely adapt someone else's work.
We had some fun rom-com adaptations like About a Boy, based on the Nick Hornby novel, and Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist, adapted from Rachel Cohn and David Levithan's book.
In our terribly and naively named foreign language series, we discussed The Brilliant City of God and The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, which I won't ever be able to watch again, ever.
But could you read the original memoir?
I don't know, maybe?
We had our Richard Dysart series with adaptations like The Day of the Locust and Being There.
Plus, we had that fantastic interview with the man himself.
The one where we had him sit on the floor?
Because this chair was so squeaky. Good times.
We did our first Tom Hanks series with Forrest Gump, adapted from Winston Groom's novel, plus Apollo 13, based on Lost Moon by Jim Lovell.
And we did another year series looking at films from 1981, including Das Boot, Gallipoli, and Thief, all based on books.
Listeners can dive deeper into all of these original stories and more at thenextreel.com/originals. Every book, play,
movie,
video game. You bet. We have talked about some video game adaptations as well. It doesn't matter the source, just follow the link. Every purchase supports the podcast.
Check out the full list at thenextreel.com/originals and get reading, watching, performing, or playing today.